Hi, I'm Matthew Lapp, host of Matthew Lapp Train Guy Segment Show. Also today in this segment, I'm at the Douglas Railroad Interpretive Center in Douglas, Wyoming. The Douglas Railroad Interpretive Center is located on 121 Brownfield Road in Douglas, Wyoming. Also, the depot is a former Fremont, Elkhorn, and Missouri Valley depot that was built in 1886, and also the Fremont, Elkhorn, and Missouri Valley is also known as the Chicago Northwestern Railroad, and it was used for passenger service on the Chicago Northwestern Railroad as well, and even used for passengers to buy a ticket and also board a train to go somewhere, or people to arrive in Douglas on a train from somewhere, or even sit in the waiting room while waiting for the train as well. Then later, the depot was soon retired, and in 1990, the depot was acquired from the railroad successor, the Chicago and Northwestern, by the city of Douglas, Wyoming. Also, the depot soon became a museum, and today it is used as the Douglas Railroad Interpretive Center and used as a railroad museum and a visitor center as well. What you see right behind me is Union Pacific 48330D. Union Pacific 48330D was built in 1914 and is a stock car. This car was built originally as a 40-foot boxcar and was used for the Oregon Short Line and originally numbered 120-579. Then was converted to being a stock car and used for the Union Pacific Railroad and renumbered 48330D, and was used on freight trains like mixed freight trains or a line of stock cars when being used on the Union Pacific Railroad and hauling animals on board like sheep, goats, cows, and some other animals this car used to haul a lot in the past. Then it was renumbered 47926. Then in 1964, this car was retired and came to be put on display at the Douglas Railroad Interpretive Center in Douglas, Wyoming, where it is seen on display today. What you see right behind me is Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy 5633. Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy 5633 was built by the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy West Burlington shops in West Burlington, Iowa in 1940, and is the 66108th steam locomotive built by that factory, and is a 484 Northern type steam locomotive, and is an 05A class steam locomotive. It was used for passenger service and fast freight on the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Railroad for many years. It is also one of 15 05A class steam locomotives built and numbered from 5621 to 5635. Then the locomotive was retired, and in 1962 it was donated to the Douglas Railroad Interpretive Center in Douglas, Wyoming, where it is on display today. Also, sometime after it got put in this spot, the headlight and Mars light was vandalized, but then the locomotive's headlight soon got repaired in 2019. Also, Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy 5633 is one of 4 surviving Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy 484s left in the world today, and can be found here at the Douglas Railroad Interpretive Center in Douglas, Wyoming, where it is today. What you see right behind me is Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy 196. Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy 196 was built by the Bud Company in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1947 and is a diner car. Also, the car is named Silver Salver. This car was used on the Twin Cities Zephyr passenger train between Chicago and Minneapolis, and it is a 48-seat dining car, and also people would even ride on board it and would also have a meal on board while riding the train as well, whenever it was used on the railroad. Then, it was in brief service on the Burlington Northern's business fleet and renumbered 1160 around the time of the merger in 1970. Then, in 1971, it was retired and came to be part of the Douglas Railroad Interpretive Center in Douglas, Wyoming, where it is on display today. And also, you can even visit the interior of the car as well. Okay, you can see right here is a speeder that may have been used by the Chicago Northwestern or maybe the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Railroad. It was built by the Fairmount Motor Company in Fairmount, Minnesota, and later retired and ended up on this little section of rails right here where you can see it today at the Douglas Railroad Interpretive Center. And here it is next to the depot. Okay, I'm going to show you all the exhibits they have inside this depot, and I'll get behind the camera, walk around in there, and show you all around and see what they have in there to see. So, get behind the camera and here we go. Okay, so here we go through the depot. There's some pictures on the wall showing how the steam engine got here. A lot of old pictures. Some old railroad tools. And wow. All this. And here we go over to the model railroad. This is Lionel. Here's some pictures on this wall. An old-fashioned telephone. That's BNSF. Right there. BNSF train pictures. I think that looks like the conductor from the Polar Express, almost. Kind of looks like the conductor who was voiced by Tom Hanks, or played by Tom Hanks. And here's some old china plates. Wow, look at that. Here's some books as well. And yeah, look at all these. Pretty cool. Here's some model trains in this case. C&NW 262, 5601, which is the other, like the northern outside, except that one's 5631. And yeah, there is the steam engine that's outside. That steam engine right there belongs to Cumbers and Toltec. Yeah. Could activate the model railroad. Looks like you can't. But yeah, this is cool and well detailed. What you see right behind me is Great Northern 1182. Great Northern 1182 was built by Pullman Standard in 1950 and is a sleeper car. Also, the car is named Agassiz Glacier. This car is a 16-4 sleeper car, meaning it has 16 roomettes and 4 bedrooms. This coach was used for when passengers would be spending the night on the train when going from place to place and had their own compartments to sleep in. When this coach was used on the Great Northern Railroad, it was assigned to the Western Star on the Chicago to Seattle train. In 1970, the railroad merged to Burlington Northern and it was renumbered 1182 and it kept the number. Then in 1972, this car was retired and was donated to the state of Wyoming, and then in 1993, it came to be on display at the Douglas Railroad Interpretive Center in Douglas, Wyoming, where it is on display today, and also, you can even visit the interior of the car as well. What you see right behind me is Union Pacific 1897. Union Pacific 1897 was built by Pullman in 1911 and is a baggage car. Originally, this car was used on the Oregon Short Line Railroad, which is a subsidiary of the Union Pacific Railroad and originally numbered 331. It was used on passenger trains for the railroad, and for many years it would carry baggage on board as well. Also, the car even handled mail and baggage as well. Then, Oregon Short Line merged to the Union Pacific Railroad in 1914, and the car was renumbered 2114. Then, in 1924, it was then renumbered 1897. Then, later on, this car was retired and came to be on display at the Douglas Railroad Interpretive Center in Douglas, Wyoming, where it is on display today. What you see right behind me is Chicago and Northwestern 1886. Chicago and Northwestern 1886 was built by St. Louis Car Company in St. Louis, Missouri in 1884 and is a passenger coach. This car is part of an order of 10 short 60-foot coaches for the Cowboy line of the Chicago and Northwestern being built at the time through Douglas to Lander, Wyoming. In 1915, it was rebuilt by American Car and Foundry at Jeffersonville, Indiana, when it had steel sheathing installed over the wooden siding and electric lights replaced the gas lights. The coach operated on the Northwestern Limited, Victory, Corn, King, Viking, and Black Hills Express. In 1932, it was then assigned to suburban service in the Chicago area. For many years, this coach had carried people on board as well, whenever it was used on the Chicago Northwestern Railroad as well. Then in 1961, the car was retired and came to be part of the Douglas Railroad Interpretive Center in Douglas, Wyoming, where it is on display today. And also you can even visit the interior of the car as well. What you see right behind me is Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy 14140. Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy 14140 was built by the Burlington and Missouri River shops in Plattsmouth, Nebraska in 1884 and is a one-way car caboose. This caboose was used on the Burlington and Missouri River Railroad, which was a subsidiary of the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Railroad. When it was used on the Burlington and Missouri River Railroad, the number it had when being used on Burlington and Missouri River Railroad is unknown. Then it was used on the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Railroad and was renumbered 14140. For many years, it was used on the back of freight trains and was used as the railroad worker's office. Then it was retired and was on the north side of the Wyoming State Fairgrounds, and then came to be part of the Douglas Railroad Interpretive Center in Douglas, Wyoming, where it is on display today. And also, you can even visit the interior of the car as well. And also, this is the oldest piece at the museum on display as well. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed learning about trains with me today in Matthew Lapp Train Guy segment show. Also, I hope to see you all again in the next segment. And if you didn't subscribe to my channel yet, the subscribe button is just down below the video screen. Also, be sure to subscribe if you didn't yet. And also, if you didn't give my Facebook page a like yet, here's where you can find it as it pops up. And if you didn't follow the Instagram page yet, here's where you can find it as well. And doing all that is free to do so. And also be sure to get your merch at teesprings.com. Link is in the description box below, along with the link to the Facebook and Instagram pages. And remember to subscribe to the Train Guy. So this is Matthew Lapp, host of Matthew Lapp Train Guy segment show, signing out until next time. All aboard!